What's going on? Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going over Joker from Hack the Box. The machine is Linux. The exploitation part of this machine, we're gonna do privilege escalation, but basically by exploiting wildcards, the inappropriate use of wildcards. So let's get started. So over here, I have the nmap scan, and in nmap scan, it was revealed that we have SSH and we have a Squid HTTP proxy server running. The UDP scan, I did UDP scan, it revealed some other ports like TFTP, but in the second attempt, okay, they are revealed now. As you can see, I have UDP ports. These are the UDP ports. They were revealed by using the switch SU, and here is we have TFTP. So basically, that's what we need out of this to continue the rest of the challenge or to carry out the rest. So what's the methodology here? So as you can see here, we have proxy server running, right? And in order to access the resources, we have first to connect to that proxy server. After connecting to that proxy server, we can then access resources. But right now, we don't have, as you can see, we need username and password to access the proxy server or to connect with that proxy server. Since we don't have password or username or any set of credentials, we're going to have to rely on the TFTP, see if we can get anonymous access, and grab the username and password for the proxy server. They are located in etc, the etc directory. So what do we do here? Let's try to connect with TFTP directory first. CFTP Joker HTTP. So as you can see, we are connected. That's the first flow. So our aim now is to get the password for the Squid server. So we can do that by using the command get etc squid passwords. So as you can see, the file has been downloaded. I'm gonna head back to desktop. So we have a file called passwords, cat passwords. So we have a combination of username and hash. So what do we do next? We're gonna use John the Ripper to crack the hash. So basically sudo John dash word list is RockU. And we specify the target file. So the process has finished, and we can see the username has the password of I hate seafood. Okay. By the way, I don't hate seafood. I don't know this guy here why he hates seafood. No one hates seafood, man. Right. So what's the next step? Since we grabbed the username and passwords for the Squid proxy, now we can connect to it. Now, how to connect to Squid proxy server? We can just minimize the terminal, open the browser, and configure the browser to connect with that server, just like we do while using perp suite. So we head to settings, all the way down, computer. Okay, so right here, I typed the remote IP address, okay, associated with the proxy server 10, 10, 10, 12. Here I type the ports on which the server is listening. In my case, it is 3128, which is actually the official port. And apply that for all the ports, the protocols. Okay. Now, Now we can connect to the web server hosted on the machine by going to the loopback IP address. The site cannot be reached. Let's try 10, or let's try Joker HTTP. I see we can't connect. Let's check the settings back. Maybe we have to change the SOX version. So 10. It's not 12, actually, it is 21. So that's the mistake. 21. Okay, connect. So now the credentials. Get back. Let's see here. We should be able to connect now to the web server if the credentials are correct. Now, in line with that, I'm going to try to access this using the localhost IP. Okay, let's attempt now to access the localhost. Okay, so we see here kind of website for shortening URLs. And it's not much of help here. The only way we can proceed further is by enumerating the directories. So we can use GoBuster or we can use Directory Buster. But since we have pressure settings, we have to stick to the settings, the username and password we have to access the Squid resources, and remember always to specify them when you use Directory Buster or GoBuster. So dirp http and put the localhost IP address. Then -p, we specify here the proxy server settings, the remote host, and the remote port. 10, 21, 3128. This is the Squid server IP and port. Next, we specify the username and password with capital P, and the username is calamari. I don't know why it's that. Okay, now being recursive, and let's see what we got. Make it back, /console. We see a Python interpreter console here. And when we see interpreters in any website and a web page, it occurs to us that we need to use a reverse shell, or we need to get a connection back to us by spawning a reverse shell. So this is a single-threaded, as you can see, Python interpreter. So it's always recommended to use sub-processes all the time when dealing with single-threaded Python interpreters. So maybe other people are working in the interpreter, so sometimes you may get conflict if you run commands without using the sub-process. So what we can do here, we can first, I did the machine the first time, and it was revealed that there is a firewall in place. So you can't use a TCP reverse shell. You're going to have to use UDP reverse shell. But why is that? Because there is a firewall. How to find this? So we can use the following command, right? To check the IP tables, hit enter. Problem support is not defined. We're going to have to import it, right? So import sub. So then we hit the command one more time. So this is the output. I know it's kind of messy output, but we can just highlight the names or mark the words or mark the rules by looking at the accept or drop. So this is 1, 2 rules, 3, 4, and we're looking for drop. So here we have a drop rule, right? Where is it? Oh, okay. Here we have a drop rule, right? If we look closely at the rule, we can see that it starts here. So output, so everything that is outbound, meaning that it is coming out of the machine on protocol TCP, the firewall will drop the packets. That's why we can't use a TCP reversal. Instead, we're going to have to use a UDP reversal. So using UDP reversal is pretty easy. There's a link for that. We can go to that link. So here's a Python UDP reversal. We can use that. And we have to use, instead of netcat, we're going to have to use socat. Four, five, 4, 5. Let's check. And seems like we received something. ID. And indeed, we are now this user. So now we have a limited access to the system. Okay. Now the next step is to check and see the opportunities for privilege escalation. So we start that always with sudo -l, see what we can do. So this user, right, can run sudo edit, okay, as the user alias on this file. So this user can modify this file as the user alias. But there's a problem here if you note. Here we have two wildcards, and the use of wildcards with sudo edit has a prominent vulnerability that has been discussed. I'm gonna go to that link, and here you can find the explanation on how to exploit that vulnerability. So here you can see it's saying that sudo edit, there is a vulnerability in that binary when you specify wildcards and without specifying the full path. So it's saying here, you can modify this file and make the modification reflect on another file, like this shadow file in this case. In our case, it's not going to be the shadow, since there is no use for that. There is no use of that for us. So here what we're gonna do, we're gonna modify this file with sudo edit, right? And then create a symlink to the authorized keys of this user. So we can add our own public key. So let's head back to our machine and hit ssh-e generate. I'm going to say yes, overwrite. All right. So now we can copy the public key to the authorized keys here. Okay. So here, let's go to and this is the public key, cat ID RSA. We're going to copy that public key, right, and put it in this file. And after put it in this file, we will create a symlink to the authorized keys, right, file, so we can log in as Alicus. So here we go to cd var www. Here we have two wildcards. Okay, so we have to go one wildcard for this. So we go to testing. And in order to do modification, as you can see, we have the layout file here. So to edit the file, we have to account for this wildcard as well. So we're going to create a directory, make dir, and name it as whatever, Joker. So we have Joker, cd Joker, and here we can do the modification. Okay. Before doing the modification, we're going to have first to create the symlink. So basically, we can run ln-s and specify first the target file, home Alicus. Okay, and then we specify the file that we will modify. Okay, then. So here we can see that the symlink has been created. So whatever change we do here will be reflected to the authorized keys. So let's go ahead and edit the layout.html. Sudo, okay, as the user Alicus, or without sudo, just type sudo edit. Specify the user, and then we specify the target file. The target file is var www. It is in testing or testing, yes. Then we go to Joker. The target file is layout.html. Okay, so now let's get the public key in here, paste it, save, enter, and now we make sure that the file has been correctly modified, cat layout html, and indeed it has been modified. This sucks actually, but this is because I spawned the PTY terminal. All right, so what's the next step here? We're gonna log in, right, with our private key to the target machine. Since we have the public key being copied to authorized keys, we can now just use it and log in as the user Alicus. So from here, sudo sh-i id rsa, and then specify the username at Joker HTTP. Type yes. Enter paraphrase for ID RSA. And now we are logged in as the user Alicus. So first we have successfully elevated our privileges from the regular user to Alicus. And this was done actually by exploiting the wildcards misconfigurations. So the next step now is to escalate from Alicus to root. So ls Let's see what we have here. We have the user flag, we have development, and we have backup. If you go to backup, since backups directories are actually a place to look in when you are doing privilege escalation. Sometimes it contains backups for important or sensitive files. So it is very alerting to look in the backups. So ls-la, we have here kind of, backups. And these backups, if we just unzip one of them, let's say tar-cvf, and see the content of the directory of the compressed file. Oh, it is just a second. What's that? Let's do it without this. zxvf, and we paste in the file name. ls. Oh, so we gotta get rid of this option, tar-xvf, and the file name. Okay, so here's the content of the backup file. Okay, let's find out what are these files, right? We want to see what they are. cd back, if we go to cd development, we see the exact same files and directories. So it seems like if we get back ls, the backup directory here takes or hosts, I'm not gonna say it takes, it hosts the backups of the development directory, and it seems like it's taking the backups every once in a while. Maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes, maybe, but it's not less than 10 minutes. The time range between 2 and 5 minutes. Every 2 to 5 minutes, a tool is taking backups of the development directory and stores them in the backup directory. So what can we do about this? Since we have a wildcard issue with this Linux version, we can just use the same exploitation method in dumping the content of the root file, the root directory. So how we do this? Before doing that, we got to understand why it is vulnerable to the wildcard issue here. So this page talks about the wildcard exploitation and why it happens and how to avoid it. So basically, without going through all of these lines, what we're going to do now, we're going to rename the development directory. So let's say dev, all right. And the next step is to create a symlink. So the symlink will be to the root directory, ln-s root and development. What's going to happen now? When the backup is taken, or when the backup process is started, instead of taking backups of the development, it's going to take backup of the root directory, which is what we want. So if we now head back to backup, so this one was last taken in 2017. We're going to wait for one to be taken, but this is not actually the, I'm going to say it's partial solution to that problem, or not problem, it is partial root. Since if you dump the content of the root folder, you may, you still not root on the system. So what we're going to do now, we're going to have to use this one, right, to use the tar command, okay, in order to kind of, but this is not sufficient. Even if we dump the content of the root file, it may be sufficient for solving the challenge and putting or acquiring the flag. but it's not sufficient to get root on the system, which is the pen testing objective. So what we will do here, we're gonna use the exploitation method here to exploit the wildcards. How do we do that? So basically, we know that the backup process here, right, is taking backups of the development directory with the tar command, right? Tar something and C, maybe F, and star to highlight everything. So there is a tool here that's using tar to take the backups of the development directory and stores it in the backup here. Okay, so the thing here, it's saying that we can inject kind of options and parameters to the tar command to make the tar command execute whatever we would like it to execute. So let's demonstrate this. If you get back here, okay, now the objective is to let tar command, instead of taking backups, to execute reverse shell. And we're going to use the same socat listener here. It is running. I'm going to use the same UDP reverse shell to connect back to my socat listener. All of this will be done using tar. Okay, so but first we're going to have to rely on two options, the checkpoint and checkpoint action. Let's first create, let's see debug. Let's create the reverse shell first. Okay, so now nano, let's say UDP root.py, and in here we're going to grab this one, the same UDP reverse shell. Take it and put it here. Keep this IP and the port the same. Cat UDP root.py. That's fine. Let's give it permissions to run. All right. Next step now is to abuse the tar tool and the wildcard issue. So basically, first we have two options, the checkpoint and checkpoint action. Okay. Now we say touch dash 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 checkpoint equal one checkpoint. And we say then we specify what is the checkpoint, what's going to do, what's the action. Single quote, checkpoint, and the parameter is action, checkpoint and checkpoint action, equal execute Python UDP root.py. So the tar here, these options, we might say, how do you know that we can use checkpoint and checkpoint action? These options are part of the tar command. And since tar command is being run every 5 minutes to take the backups, we're going to supply these arguments to tar command. So instead of, it's going to execute the shell here. So hit enter and just wait here. Okay, if we check now, we see this is a new file. So let's say tar, let's see what's the content of this file. -xvf, extract it. Oh, so this is the root file. Cat root.txt, and this is the flag. Difficulty 5. Let's see it's correct. So it is correct.